All right, audio test. Audio test. All right. Good evening, everyone. My name's Phil Gallagher of Thraben University, and tonight I'll be streaming some Red, White, Death, and Taxes. I've got a handful of things to show you at the beginning of the stream here, but I have a few sort of interesting announcements to talk about. Number one, due to having a decent number of followers who support me and love what I'm doing, I will be having a bonus stream tomorrow night. It'll be at the usual time. That one will start promptly at 7 o'clock. That one is not going to start early at all. Announcement number two, although it's not terribly visible right now because I'm sort of on a white screen, there is a card hoarder logo on screen now. I was accepted as part of the Card Hoarder Network yesterday, which has a couple of perks. Most notably, I can now borrow some cards from Card Hoarder. So, there were some builds we were talking about streaming that I just didn't have the cards for, such as, you know, Agate Blue-White build. Oop. Such as Agate's Blue-White build, you know, where those true names cost like $78 each or something like that. Well, now my friends at Card Hoarder are ready to party, and they're willing to lend me some stuff. So it'll take a few days to get set up, but probably late next week I will have the option to start borrowing cards. So if there's some interesting Death and Taxes brew that you're interested in taking a look at, well, I can reasonably do that now. And if there's another deck you're interested in seeing me streaming, that's something that very much can be a possibility sometime in the not too distant future. So I'm relatively excited about that. Sort of generic announcement number three, I had some emote problems in the past, you know. I had someone lined up to do the emote, they didn't have time, you know, they were moving. I had someone else lined up to do the emote, and they kind of fell through as well. Well, now I actually have someone. So here is your preview of the emote. It's not quite done yet, but earlier today I got the initial sketch for it, and it's kind of adorable. It's essentially, you know, a waifu Thalia, if I'm gonna be, you know, completely honest here. Very, very much done in an anime style, and I think it's going to be quite adorable when it's done. I don't know how well this will show up for you. It's a little small, but we are in the process of doing the sort of tweaking for the emote, and it's been digitized and colorized, and it's looking pretty good. I might be a couple of days off from like having it actually implemented into the channel, because there's still some finishing touches that need to be done, and then I'll have to submit it to Twitch to get it approved. But that is incoming sometime very, very soon. I also have another emote potentially lined up that someone is also working on for me. I don't know if I'm going to just like save that for when I hit partner status so everyone can use it, or if I'm just gonna like, at least for now, put it as like one of the $10 subscription perks rather than the $5 subscription perks. But somebody sent me what is essentially a Moon Man emote. That's pretty cool. It's like an astronaut, but instead of like the big glass bubble, it's like a blood moon face. I got a good laugh out of that. So one way or another, that's something coming in the not too distant future. I'll probably repeat those announcements once or twice throughout the stream once we get some more people in here. But otherwise, I'm gonna go ahead and just like jump into matches today. We're playing Red, White, Taxes, the same list that I've been playing probably without any changes for about 2 weeks now. I've been very, very happy with this. The little changes we made, like the third Wingmare and the Recruiter of the Guard in the sideboard, have done wonders. Been very, very happy with that. I suppose the last thing I want to do before I get started here is thank Basic Planes for his donation the other night. I don't think I got around to thanking him on stream. Let's battle. Oh, I have to use event tickets for this because I've been just incinerating my play points trying to play cube. It has not gone well. Yeah, Moxall, 100% Weeb Thalia. It's going to be awesome. Really looking forward to it. Alright, so I'm on the draw here against Proverb. And this is kind of an average hand. It doesn't have anything amazing to it, but it has a curve of Thalia into Wingmare, and if my opponent's on any sort of unfair deck, or maybe even a Delver deck, you know, this could just be too much for them. Oh, please don't be elves, please don't be elves, please don't be elves, please don't be elves. Huh, it's not elves. It is lands, though. Which isn't an amazing matchup, but it's not a bad matchup. Game 1 here is going to be rough. They probably just got their life from the loam. Yeah, exploration followed by gamble for life from the loam does not bode well. So this gets backstage Heath. And once they dredge into a grove, I might just be dead. A wasteland would also be very bad. Oh, geez, Ghost Quarter is almost as bad as Wasteland. So I'm not going to like fetch for a plains to play around Ghost Quarter, because I don't want to reveal the fact that I am a red deck if I can avoid it. I don't want to show this fetch land if I'm just going to die, and it appears that that is a likely scenario since my opponent now has Stage Depth Ghost Quarter. My opponent here is thinking about whether or not they want to, like, which card they want to play around. Do they want to play around Wasteland, or do they want to play around Flicker Wisp? It doesn't particularly matter. Either way, they probably just get me here. Moxall, I agree. When the lands player opens up on a exploration, it's so much harder to win. Like, if my opponent doesn't have exploration here, then they're just playing a normal amount of lands, and maybe my, like, Thalia Wingmare plan can get somewhere. But, you know, this as is not going to do it. No, I am early. So my scheduled start time is 7 o'clock, and I will always start by 7 o'clock. But when I have the possibility of starting a little bit early and I'm ready to go, I will usually do so. So we're not going to run out the Flicker Wisp here. Our plan is to chump block the Merit Lodge with the Vryn Wingmare and then use the Flicker Wisp to remove it on the following turn. Yeah, thanks, Moxall. So I haven't used my Twitter basically at all. Like, I made one because everyone made one. But I'm more of a, like, lengthy talker, so I didn't necessarily enjoy Twitter as a format. But when I joined Card Hoarder Network, they said, hey, if you tweet out when you're starting, we will go ahead and, you know, retweet you and help promote your channel. So that's something I'm going to be doing from now on. Oh yes, I can't always just do the things that are like 2,000 years old. Sometimes I have to be modern. Like I said, Basic Plains, I made a Twitter, and then I didn't touch it for like 4 years or something like that. It's going well. Got a handful of good announcements. I'll repeat them all after the first match once more people get in here. So, like, you say the Flicker Wisp looks great, and, like, yes, it's killing a giant tentacle monster, but my opponent can just, like, make another right now, and there's not a ton that I can do about it. Because, like, they're just gonna, like, loam, get back the Ghost Quarter, and they'll Ghost Quarter my Wasteland. In response, I will Wasteland their Thespian stage. They'll make a Merit Lodge, and then I need to rip another Flicker Wisp in order to get there. And just doing something like wasting the Thespian stage on my turn doesn't actually get anywhere, because my opponent can still, like, loam, get both, produce Merit Lodge. What? Chat, how did I win? How did I win? I do not understand. I'm at like 0% to win this game right now. Okay. Yes, greatest of all time, right here. Phil Gallagher, ladies and gentlemen. Game 1, opponent concedes for some reason. Definitely confused here. Alright, so what's coming in? Probably paths to remove Merit Lodge. Rest in peace is gas. We have 3 of those tonight. Relic Order can be good for Mox Diamond as well as like random explorations and Molten Vortexes. And we'll probably consider Cataclysm and Recruiter of the Guard. So we have a lot of things that can come in. No, opponent said nothing in chat, Moxall. I have no idea what they were doing. Like, they're not anywhere close to dead. Maybe they're not familiar with, like, playing their deck, and they're like, oh, this Wasteland, they have 5 power on board. I can't win. I don't have Punishing Fire or something. I don't know. Alright, so how am I going to board? I'll probably pull the Revokers. I'll probably trim some portion of the Stoneforge package. I'll probably trim a couple of Swords to Plowshares since I'm bringing in all of this stuff. As weird as this sounds, some people are telling me like not to play Cataclysm in this matchup. When you're specifically when you're the red version of this deck, because you have this Magus of the Moon as a game-ending Haymaker that sort of fills the same role as Cataclysm, and it can be a little bit harder to get to 4 mana. So sort of on that note, like maybe the PNK should go. The thing about Cataclysm is that unless you have a Rest in Peace as well, this card doesn't do a lot because you're... Oh, I need to like play one more card here. Probably a second piece of equipment. Because your opponent can rebuild so much faster than you can. I spent too much time like being in utter disbelief that we were not dead, that I wasted all my sideboarding time. This hand is probably a trap. Like, yes, it has something it can cast, and yes, it has 2 Flicker Wisps for Merit Lodges, but this Batterskull is not good, the second Thalia is bad, and I don't actually have a real game plan right now. I'm going to mulligan. A hand that has like a Magus or a Rest in Peace or a Vial is going to be way better than this. Hey, this has a lot of the things I want. Moxall, is there an ETA on the mulliganing article? Yes. I have most of my end written. I'll bottom that. I have most of what I'm going to say written. The survey goes until Sunday night, and then I will like do some number crunching on the article and push it out probably middle of next week. Yeah, so I've written up everything that I want to say about the individual hands. Like, I have my own comments about their strengths and weaknesses. So now I just need to go and wait for the results. My thoughts and other people's thoughts deviated heavily on a few of them. So it's going to be fun to talk about. Alright, opponent does not have an awful lot going on over there. They don't have a loam. So this Magus is, in all likelihood, just going to shut them out of the game. This is an interesting spot. I kind of want to wasteland my opponent. And just, like, plan on wasteland them this turn, wasteland them the next turn, and then play Magus. The awkward thing is that if they have a crop rotation, they can just use that and produce a Merit Lodge. If they have a Thespian stage, though, and they just, like, naturally play a Thespian stage, then I'm in trouble, because they can Ghost Quarter my Wasteland and then go off. So I need to figure out like how I want to approach this, given that. I kind of feel like my opponent's hand is weak. Like they have they just have 2 cards. So I kind of want to just like go for it and Wasteland the Grove. And then on the next turn I can Wasteland the Thicket and just keep them off of casting a Light from the Loam if they draw it. I can So Crypt Rat says keep up Wasteland and pass. That is a sort of safe and conservative line. And if my opponent doesn't have anything up on their next turn, I can just slam the Magus a turn earlier. That might be fine. Sorry, I want to mute that in case they call back. In the face of Grove with red mana up, I don't necessarily want to just jam the Moon Man now. Oh, it's another spam bot. Let's ban that. So I'm just going to take the same line as the previous turn. It's pretty much impossible for us to lose with double Wasteland up. So what does that get? If that gets Thespian Stage, then I don't care because I have double Wasteland. If I Wasteland now, my opponent could have second crop rotation, and second crop rotation could be a problem. So I just let that go. Alright, there's the stage. Really setting up keep stop, I guess. A Molten Vortex. Alright, that is annoying. That's okay. We can slowly deal with that. It's going well, Goblin Lackey. Things are interesting right now. Very interesting. So, bunch of lines available. This is probably another one of those, like, pass the turn turns yet again. The sort of awkward thing here is that if I Magus and my opponent has a land for Molten Vortex right now, and like I go for like Sword Equip on Magus, it's not the greatest. Oh, I am at 22 though. Although if they have a land to just huck at me, then that's lethal. At some point, I probably just like start a stream of wastelands on my opponent. I'm not sure if that's supposed to be right now. I can just like fetch planes, tap Vial. If my opponent responds by producing a Merit Lodge, like trying to produce a Merit Lodge, my double Wasteland wins there. I don't think my opponent has a land in hand. You would like to Ghost Quarter a Wasteland. That takes you off of the mana to produce idiots. Doesn't seem good. I guess I just double Wasteland my opponent's stuff here, and then be way, way, way ahead. I can also, like... This is tricky. I'm gonna double waste him. No, we don't know what's in their hand. I don't think it's a land. Sure. And I'm going to let that resolve. This probably just gets another Dark Depths. Okay. So Moxall, I don't think our opponent knows what they're doing with their deck. Like, if I'm being 100% honest, I don't think my opponent knows how to play their deck properly. Like, they conceded in game 1 where I thought I was 100% dead. Yep. So that was not the best game there, chat. That did not show off how the matchup is supposed to work. So, like, I won that game because my opponent made a number of sequencing and tactical errors that let me get way ahead. I'm probably winning that game more or less no matter what because of how strong my hand was. And, like, with triple Wasteland and Magus and Recruiter for another Magus, I'm probably just not losing more or less no matter what I do. But, like, my opponent could have given themselves a much better chance. Alright. So that's that. Yeah, game one was weird. Alright, so now that I have a few more of the regulars back in, I'm going to go ahead and repeat my announcements from the beginning of the stream here. Number one. Here is the preview of the Thalia emote. This is sort of the sketch before it was digitized. You know, it's sort of like Waifu Thalia or Weeb Thalia. Very much love it. And here is sort of the initial draft stage of it in testing. We still want to do a little bit more cleaning up of it, but I think it's adorable and has a lot of potential. Very much looking forward to it. You can probably expect to have that towards the end of next week. You know, this is really close to being done right now, and we'll just need to, you know, make sure that we can resize it properly and submit it through Twitch to get approved. Really, really looking forward to that. Number two. Oh, I guess I should, like, see how this looks on my own stream. Number two, you'll see that there is now a card hoarder logo on my stream. That is for the Card Hoarder Network. They decided to accept me as part of their network, and what that means is that I can... Oh, is my bot dead? I will look into that. I don't know why that happened. Note to self. Bot dead? Question mark. I will take a look at that probably tomorrow and try to figure out what happened there. Anyway, so because I'm now a part of the Card Hoarder Network, I will be able to go and borrow cards from them. So a lot of those deck lists that we couldn't quite justify playing because it was going to cost me, you know, like an extra 200 tickets to go and buy the parts for them because it had a bunch of true names, well, Card Hoarder's just going to let me borrow those now. So that's pretty cool. And I also wanted to, again, thank Basic Planes for his donation. Really do appreciate that. All right, let's see if we can play a more realistic game of Magic here. Lucilla. I don't think I've played against this player before. I'm on the draw again. Sort of an average hand. I'm gonna keep this. Like, it has a game plan. It has a game plan of, like, Mom into Thalia with a potential Swords to Plowshares for disruption if I need that. I'd like to draw land as my next draw. Literally any land. I would love to curve Thalia into Wingmare. I also hope my opponent is not Miracles. It's obviously too early to tell for sure, but that's sort of my suspicion. If it is Miracles, I'm likely to get either a 2 for 3 for 1 against me in the next couple of turns, and then largely be dead. Opponent is always Miracles. Opponent sure looks like Miracles. Alright, so we'll probably run this Thalia into a Terminus and be sad. But that's the life we're living. Oh! Pitching Flusterstorm. Interesting. So we're not getting Terminus. There's a good possibility that my opponent is actually Show and Tell, but I don't want to attack with this bomb in case I'm wrong and it's just a Miracles deck that happens to have a one of Flusterstorm, because that's not unreasonable. Do I want to protect this Wingmare enough that I put the Cavern on Pegasus? My opponent really aggressively forced that Thalia. If my opponent is Miracles, they can just, like, cast actual counterspell on this Wingmare. And I'm in very bad shape. If my opponent is something like a Show and Tell deck, then I probably don't need to worry about a second counterspell from them. The awkward thing, if I put this Cavern on Pegasus, is that I might not be able to cast some of my humans if I do so, or a Flicker Wisp. I think the high-risk, high-reward play is play Wasteland and just cast Wingmare. I think the conservative play is put Cavern on Pegasus. I'm doing it. Just Flicker Cavern later. It's easy. With my Flicker Wisp that I have in hand and can cast. Wait, nope, that's wrong on both sides of the equation. Give my opponent something to cast their counterspell on. Nope, that just happened. Are they actually Sneak and Show? Are they actually... Opponent, give me another card so I can know. Not knowing is killing me here. Metaphorically, not figuratively. Or not literally. Gataxian Probe? The Gataxian Probe is a little weird. Oh, is my opponent like High Tide? Oh god, I think my opponent's High Tide. That would explain the Flusterstorm, and just getting islands, and super aggressively forcing that Thalia. Alright, so I think my opponent is on High Tide. If my opponent is on High Tide, then once I have this sword on the Wingmare, I can safely attack in. And if I attack in with both of my creatures, then I have my opponent on a 2-turn clock, because it's 14 damage. But attacking with the Mom is really bad if my opponent is not High Tide. So 100% this happens. I wish I had a 2-power creature in hand. If I had a 2-power creature in hand, then I could attack with the Wingmare, hit for 6, play the 2-power creature, and then be threatening lethal on the following turn. But I don't. Alright, in we go. Alright, so I guess there is the question, like, what if it's Sneak and Show? And what if they were waiting to put in, like, both Grizzlebrand and Emrakul? Because, like, if they have 5 mana now, they can play the Sneak attack, play another land, and, like, Grizzlebrand or Emrakul me. So I 100% want to leave this Karakas up. The question is, do I want to play the Stoneforge for any reason, or would I rather just hold up a Swords to Plowshares? Swords to Plowshares on the Grizzlebrand isn't the best, but it would save me 7 life. I think I'm more likely to want to, like, still assume that my opponent is on High Tide and have this extra point of power in play. Alright, so it is looking like it is actually a sneak attack deck of some nature. And that was my opponent just, like, absolutely thinning for, like, one last chance of getting what they need to go off. I don't know if my opponent actually should have fetched, because if they didn't fetch, I wouldn't know what deck they were on, and I would have boarded for High Tide instead of Sneak and Show. Alright. So we're playing a Sneak and Show on the draw. We win. So really, this was game 1, opponent does nothing. I did very little to stop my opponent. If my opponent had, like, a show and tell and resolved it, you know, bad news for Mr. Phil. My opponent had to aggressively remove the Thalia, and then I stuck the Wingmare, which kind of apparently did them in. Yeah, like, I'm not even, like, doing anything good today. I'm just, like, happening to kill my opponent. So we will bring in a lot of the stuff that is good against unfair decks. Relic Order, Priest, Recruiter to go get those. If we have a lot of stuff to take out, we maybe board in, like, the Path to Exiles for our Grizzlebrand, but we probably won't have that much. It might seem kind of weird to board in P&K, but P&K is pretty solid to put in off of Show and Tell. As weird as that sounds, that has won me a lot of games. So we will board out our Swords to Plowshares. Jitte seems pretty bad here. And I'll probably just trim, like, one fair card, probably a Stoneforge Mystic. And that leaves us with a pretty reasonable package with a decent amount of hate. Oh wait, I have the Maguses. The Magus is 100% going to go out instead. Magus shuts off our own Karakas and ports, which can be some of the, like, only ways that we can actually win this. Yeah, 100% am bully today. I'll probably just board in the Mirren Crusader as a generic creature that can close the game quickly, and that actually might make me want to, like, switch Jitte and Batterskull if I'm going to, like, bring in the Crusader. Jitte also has the perk of being able to go and get your creatures out of, like, a Kozilek's return range or something like that. Yeah, we're Definitely a bully. Maybe all D&T players are bully. Unconfirmed. So we're going to keep this hand. This hand has a lot of things I really like. Most notably, it has Recruiter of the Guard, and Recruiter of the Guard will let me go and get a Leonin Relic Order to beat an Omniscience off of Show and Tell. Terminus is the good guy when it is destroying a bunch of elves. It's the bad guy when it's getting 3 of my creatures. So, somebody was talking about incinerating cube tickets, other than just me. I had a really rough string of drafts today and last night. I think I did like 1-3-0, 1-2-1, and then like 2 1-2s and 1-0-3 this afternoon right before this. So my opponent didn't have Force of Will on turn 1 for my Thalia. I might be able to just resolve it right now. Resolving it right now would mean that my opponent would need a Soul Land followed by Show and Tell, Omniscience, Emrakul to just outright kill me. That's all pretty unlikely. However, I can just port my opponent, put Thalia in the next turn. If I play Thalia now, on my next turn I can cast Recruiter and get a 2-drop, like an Aethersworn Canonist or the Leonin Relic Order right away. I think I'm just gonna like drag this one out a little bit and port. I really don't want that Thalia to get forced. I don't think my opponent has it, but I don't want to be wrong. My opponent's thinking about something. So, Thalia isn't actually all that better if he tombs into Omni, right? Because if I don't tap down one of these lands, he still has 4 mana, and so he can still cast the Omni there, and if he has another creature as follow-up, it just happens. Alright, that's fine. I'm probably not getting double white immediately. So be it. I'm giving you a heart attack. Yes, it does Stone Rain him. I'm still going to get the Relic Warder here. I know I have a lot of options available to me, but the Relic Warder can either answer the usual assortment of annoying things from over there, or it can help me just, like, stop the Omniscience plan. Oh, thank you very much for subscribing. I really appreciate it, you know? I've been getting a lot of support from all of you, and can't tell you how much it means. We've really been going places in about the last 2 weeks here, so thank you very much for your subscription. Basic Lanes, the bot broke for some reason. I have to figure out what happened with the bot. So some of the chat, all the chat commands are not working tonight. I hope there's a classic. If you get to play in a classic, they're really fun. I am having a good league. We're winning through my opponent's mistakes. We had a real interesting match against lands where my ooh. It's slightly annoying, but not the most annoying. Alright, so my opponent shuffled with that Ponder. If I tick this up, I lose the ability to cast the Leonin Relic Warder, which is sort of unfortunate. But I plan on showing telling that in anyway, so that might be fine. I think my plan for this next turn is just so I guess I can Flicker Wisp, Flicker the Blood Moon, fetch a second white source, and play my Ether Vial, rather than use it to deny my opponent 1 mana. I think my opponent's hand is weak since they shuffled with the Ponder. Either way, I'm ticking this up. Not the best draw. I think if I just flicker their blue source for a turn, that stops them. That does stop them for 1 turn. I could just go Vial here, flicker with the blue source, then Vials tick up to 1. 1 turn later, I have these on 2 for the Relic Warder. That's probably just better and safer. Yeah, the side events at those sorts of things are pretty enjoyable. They're not necessarily like the greatest EV events in the world, but they're fine. I've done the sort of like infinite challenge badges many times, and if you're just looking out to, and like going out to jam Legacy with people who like Legacy, it's a good time. I hate missing events that are close by. That's the worst. And close by for me, I consider to be 3 to 4 hours, you know. If there's a big event, I am willing to drive that far for it very easily. when we start getting to the 5 or 6 range that it's like, do I have enough people going with me? Is this worth it? And any more than that starts getting tricky. Oh, interesting. I don't know that that's worth a card quite yet. This kind of confirms that my opponent was indeed in desperation mode. Well, my opponent really didn't like me flickering out their land last turn, so obviously I'm going to do it again. It actually might be better to flicker the Blood Moon so that I can fetch plains here, and then port them twice. That takes them off of 2 mana sources instead of 1, and puts me in a better position from here on out. Although that would let them fetch an island, though. So that would let them get main phase blue, which might let them cast a show and tell. I'm not going to do that. We will hold the course. Another reason not to flicker the Blood Moon is that if they have a Brainstorm and I flicker the Blood Moon, they would have the opportunity to fetch. Like, do Brainstorm fetch and clear the top of their library. Oh yeah, we are 100% bully today. All mean, all the time. Alright, I apparently can't see what color of mana that is yet, but I presume it is blue. Well, opponent, I only have one thing to bring, and you know what it is. So, there's that. Cosplaying. Secret is I'm just a bully all the time. Alright, you cast the show and tell. You should know what you're putting in. I pick this. Alright, you have something nice. I'll get rid of your Blood Moon. I will use this ability. We are doing the whole, like, super marginal deck thinning thing here. Because we really need to hit an answer to this Emrakul in the next card. Alright, Revoker not quite gonna do it. So I'm not 100% dead. Just mostly dead. I can sacrifice the Vial on 1 and my 5 lands, and then have a Vial on 2 and 3. A Flicker Wisp would buy time, and we're really looking to hit Caracas off the top to get rid of the Emrakul. So for whoever typed deck list, the bot broke for some reason. I will get that fixed before the stream tomorrow night. I'm not sure what happened. I'm not used to troubleshooting that, so I don't want to like try to do it live and waste a bunch of time. Alright, Moxall. Enjoy your card night. Lame abandoned reason. I've enjoyed some Pauper. There's a pretty... Alright, I should say, like, 6 years ago I enjoyed some Pauper. There was a pretty sweet mono-black deck that was very Death and Taxes-esque. My opponent is just appreciating my Abandoned Reason name with Phyrexian Revoker in the chat. They respect it. I mean, any format where you're casting random things like Oubliette that haven't seen the light of day in 15 years is kind of neat, right? So I don't really need to keep any lands, right? Because I'm essentially on Caracas or bust here. Explain how it's close to D&T. So both are these like creature-oriented control decks, where the mono black Pauper deck has a bunch of things like Phyrexian Rager and Crypt Rats and Okiba Gang Shinobi that are sort of taxation effects stapled to creatures. So they're conceptually similar in that way. Alright, so game 2, die to Emrakul after playing around Omni. I think I still like everything that we're doing here. Although now that I know my opponent is playing the Blood Moons, I might have to be a little more aggressive about some of my picks in terms of fetching. I'll be keeping this. It is a curve of, like, Mom into Thalia into Recruiter with Flicker Wisp backup. Awkwardly, if my opponent Blood Moons us, we're in trouble. It's a weird thing about being a Blood Moon deck sometimes, is, like, the opposing Blood Moons can be just fine against you. Needs more Thragtusk? This deck? Flicker Wisp our Thragtusks for value? I think it's better in Modern, where you get to, like, Restoration Angel your Thragtusks for value. That feels even better. Aether Vial for 5. I have Aether Vial for 5 before, in Legacy. I have played Baneslayer Angel in my sideboard. Probably about 3 years ago, at a couple of SCG Opens, when Bug Delver and Bug mid-range decks were super, super popular. Yeah, and Steps Top, I'm not going to claim that it was the greatest sideboard card in the world, but, like, boy, for about a 2-week period, was that the hotness. It was disgustingly good. Let's bring that shit back, Phil. If I think the time is right, I am 100% on board with playing Baneslayer Angel. Like, it has a lot going for it. It dodges Abrupt Decay, it dodges Fatal Push, it dodges Lightning Bolt. About the only thing that gets it is, like, Dismember or White Removal, like Swords to Plowshares. Oh man, is my opponent just, like, going for it? Alright. So, I'm really hoping that they put in a Grizzlebrand, not an Emrakul. If they put in a Grizzlebrand, I can probably beat that. Like, Mom plus Flicker Wisp beats Grizzlebrand. But if they put in an Emrakul, I need Caracas to win there. Yeah, Welshman, it's hard for this deck to go off on turn 1, because you usually need, like, Ancient Tomb, Petal, Show and Tell, plus Creature. So you need, like, 4 different cards to go off on turn 1, and you usually can't, like, cantrip as well in order to find them, so you just have to, like, naturally have all of that. Yeah, so, like, regardless of what my opponent does here, I'm putting in this Flicker Wisp. Like, it just needs to happen. Because it's what helps me beat Grizzlebrand if it comes into play. It's what delays Omni if that happens. Alright. So, I get to Flicker with something. And I think that something is going to be the Lotus Petal. It doesn't matter very much what I flicker. I don't need to flicker this Cavern. Actually, I guess I could flicker the Cavern. If my opponent has Emrakul and wants to attack, then flickering this lets me keep a land and deploy Thalia on the next turn. Alright, it's an Emrakul. Alright, sacrifice 6, so I guess I'll just do 2. Can't count that high. So, I know this looks bad, but it's not as bad as it looks. So my opponent does not have another red source in play, and there's no guarantee that they have a creature either. So my opponent needs both red source and creature to kill me, and they get 2 turns to get both of those. Because my next turn is Recruiter, followed by the cat. Oh, I guess I can't cast Relic Order, so it'll be Revoker instead. Yeah, one way or another, this game is interesting. At the end of combat here, I'm going to go ahead and just get rid of this Ancient Tomb. I don't think there's much my opponent can do with it. But I don't want to run into anything weird. Alright, and we get there. Skillfully navigating games. Why not Containment Priest? Isn't it a human? Great question. Because I messed up. Yeah, Containment Priest is absolutely a better line there. So game 3 beat. Turn 1, show and tell for M4, sneak attack, and an Emrakul attack. Opponent turn 1 attacks with a 15/15 flyer and kills 2 dudes, then concedes. What a chump. Yeah, so there's a very real possibility that my opponent actually should not have attacked with the Emrakul, even if they put in the turn 1 sneak attack, in order to go and try to get a couple more cards out of me. Like, I guess they thought they were going to get 3 cards with it, when in reality they only got, like, Mom and Flicker Wisp. But if they wait one more turn, and I go, like, land Thalia, that's not bad. So they only have 2 cards they really need to worry about at that point. It's just Phyrexian Revoker and Containment Priest. Most of the rest of what I can do is not that bad. I guess I could Caracas too. Like, there's definitely some merit in not making that attack. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and pull up the deck list here for 1 second, and I'm going to take just a second to run to the restroom. If you have any questions about my lines or about this deck list, let me know. I'll be back in 1 minute. Alright, so sorry about the delay. Let's get back in there. We're currently 2-0. We haven't worked particularly hard for these wins. They've just kind of happened this time around. So for anyone new to the stream, hi, my name's Phil Gallagher. I run Thraben University, and we almost exclusively stream D&T on this channel, although every once in a while I stream something kind of wacky or play a cube event or something like that. Tonight we're streaming with Red, White, Death, and Taxes. As far as general announcements go, while we're waiting here, we've got a sweet Thalia emote coming. This is the sketch version of it that was sent to me earlier today. And I have the draft of the emote done, although it's still going to need a little bit more polishing up and resizing before it's ready to go. But our channel emote should be ready in about the next week here. Someone says, I think they should have just show and telled in Emrakul if they had sneak attack to back it up. That's very possible. Like, if they sneak attack, they kind of lose to a Caracas, but otherwise most of what I can do doesn't matter. And I'm only going to have 2 mana, so I can't use any sort of weird creature to get rid of it at that stage. It's a very reasonable line. So the person who is doing it for me is named Gail. She's done some alters and stuff in the past. Um, she works for Star City, so you might have seen her around if you go to events quite a bit. This I think is just like the generic like testing to see if your emote works thing. So I don't know that teak actually means anything of real significance. Yeah, basic planes. That would be if I put in like a Caracas off of Show and Tell. All I want is an opponent. I just want to play some Magic. Yeah, and I agree with that. Like, if you can't possibly beat something, why play around it? In my opponent's mind, taking me off of 3 permanents would have been enough to win that game, even though the rest of their hand was a clunker. That did not end up being the case. Admittedly, I did see a line that played around what they could do, and that did very good things for me. Around the dice roll. Yay! This hand looks great. I feel like I've played this person recently. Ah, looks like they play a big red, as in like the red prison deck. That bodes well for me. I'll keep this. Ether Vial hands are very, very good on the play against that deck. And assuming that they are that deck, I am going to go ahead and fetch out a basic plains. Whereas normally in a vacuum, you want to hold your fetch lands for as long as possible to see whether or not you need to fetch red mana. Best draw in my deck right now would be Rashatenport. Flicker Wisp is acceptable. I think I'm going to get Sword of Fire and Ice, because my next turn involves just casting Vryn Wingmare, and then my follow-up turn can be Sword equip on Wingmare, and my opponent just concedes. You know, I was really joking about just, like, getting free wins, but that's all that's happening today, is that, like, my opponents are just conceding super early and making lots of mistakes. Wow. Game 1. Opponent plays Mountain and concedes. Proto, let me read that comment more thoroughly in a second here. I spent some time messing with my sideboard there, so I want to, or messing with my spreadsheet, so I want to make sure that I have enough time to board properly. So, Magus of the Moon is bad. 100% that comes out. After that, I have a lot of choices. In case I get Blood Mooned, I want both of these copies of P and K because it's something that I can cast. And then I just need to make some trims somewhere. Swords to Plowshares can be dead or amazing, depending on which build of this deck my opponent is on. My opponent could have, like, no targets, or they could have, like, infinite Goblin Rabble Masters and, like, Sin Prodders and things of that nature. I'm probably going to cut most of them until I am given a reason to keep them in. I'm going to skim over real quick, make sure there's nothing else I want to cut more. No. The only other question is like whether or not I would rather have a Mirren Crusader over that last Swords to Plowshares, and I don't necessarily know that I do. So Starstreak, in all actuality, my opponent is probably trying to hide the fact that they are on Red Prison and not Burn by conceding to that Stoneforge because their hand was weak. Alright, this is a tricky hand. This hand does not have the possibility of getting a basic. This hand folds pretty hard to a Chalice on 1, but my opponent has probably boarded those out. If this resolves, and we go like Port Vial on turn 1, and then Wastelander Port on turn 2 if we don't get Blood Mooned, this is pretty great. And we have a Revoker to stop something like a Chandra. This is a risky keep, but I do think it is a keep. Phil, did you see the article supporting white getting more counter magic like Spell Pierce? I did not. If we got that, would we want it in D&T? Unsure. Super punished. It really depends on how good the counter magic is in white. You know, if it's something like Mana Tithe, which is what we've gotten previously, then the answer is a resounding no. But if it's something that's actually good, you know, if it's like stapled to a creature or something like that, oh, that's great. Oh, man. Everything's gonna be okay. Everything's gonna be A-okay. My opponent missed a land drop, and I get to revoke their Chrome Mox. Deal. With one more land, I get to Flicker Wisp that Chalice, and then deploy my Vial. Skillfully navigated game. Stop this now, I don't need that. Actually, I might be better off just playing the Wingmare now, and just giving my opponent, like, literal no chance to play anything. Yeah. Okay, so what happens if I flicker Chrome Mox? If I flicker Chrome Mox, it comes back and my opponent has the opportunity to imprint again. If they imprint again, then if it ever becomes not revoked, they can go and cast it. Cast cards with it. Blah. So what's also a neat side effect of this is Flicker Wisping this Chalice sets it to 0, which means that they can't play another Chrome Mox or Lotus Petal. I expect a concession right here. What the fuck?! Alright, fine. Did not expect that. Opponent has Rabble Masters. They imprinted Goblin Rabble Master. Oh, sorry, they exiled Goblin Rabble Master. They imprinted Sting Scorcher. It's a goblin that lets you bounce stuff. so again, we are fighting them very heavily on the resource front here. Alright, they get a chance to cast something. A Manic Vandal. Alright, that'll go over after my Revoker, so my opponent can, like, try to cast things. Oh no, after the Vial. I disagree with that decision. So I can go Jitte, equip, Waste City, or if I use Caracas as a Lotus Petal, I can go Jitte, equip, Port City. I kind of like porting. But if my opponent has a weird instant, then I could get super punished for that. You know, something along the lines of Kozilek's return. So I will probably just waste them instead. Oh, God damn it, again? Again with this shit? Alright. My opponent does not want to lose to death and taxes. I have received the memo, sir. Yeah, this is the Red Force of Will, alright. Phil, thank you very much for subscribing to with Twitch Prime, even though I'm getting beaten down by a couple of bad creatures and infinite pyrokinesis. I do appreciate your support. I need it more so than ever right now. Alright, and my opponent scoops it up there. They have cried uncle. Let me be the salve to your wounds. Thank you. Yes, Arc Lightning, you picked the perfect time to join in. Not only are we 3-0, but we just beat double pyrokinesis. Wow. What a game. Game 2. Beat double pyrokinesis. What? Yeah, no words. So sometimes people ask me, what is the Red Prison matchup like? And I say, it's amazing. It's so good that they feel the need to play like 4x crazy narrow hate cards, like Pyrokinesis or Sulfur Elemental or Kozilek's Return, and things of that nature in order to try to make it good. Oh man, Basic Plains is right. If I didn't want that to happen to me, I should have played Brent and Forge Tender. Yeah, it's on me. Tetraverse, thank you so much for subscribing with Twitch Prime. I hope you are enjoying this as much as I am. I'm having a ball over here. Your subscription should get you a sweet emote that looks something like this sometime in about the next week or so. I'm very excited for it. We're in the final stages of finishing that up. Alright, 3-0, we've cashed no matter what. Let's see what happens now. And I won the die roll. And my hand is probably okay. See if I have any data on this player. Karate Dom. My opponent was seen playing Burn about 2 months ago. So let's update the spreadsheet here. I'm going to play for this one. I'm gonna keep this. This hand would be soft to something like an opposing Wasteland, but it's pretty good otherwise. To not give away what deck I am, I'm actually just gonna lead on the Wasteland. It might influence my opponent's turn 1 play. So 2 power, sorry, the bot is broken. I don't know what happened. So I apologize for that. Ooh, looks like my opponent might be playing Infect. There are other options, like my opponent could be playing like some sort of Bant Stoneblade deck or like mid-range True Name deck, for example, but feels like Infect. The anime command would have pulled up my anime list if you wanted, like, anime recommendations based on what I'm watching. Have the cat get the beer? Is that what I don't know that I have a command for that, but if I did, it'd be pretty sweet. What do I want to do this turn? It varies wildly depending on whether or not my opponent is actually an Infect deck or not an Infect deck. I kind of want to play Wingmare, which is dazable, but that would let me go like Thalia and Stoneforge on my next turn. So I think I'm going to do that. Oh, the Infect matchup is incredibly good for Infect. It is not even close. Infect Rex D&T. So I couldn't just Thalia and waste because my opponent had a fetch land up. Otherwise, like, that clearly would have been the line. It's kind of tempting to trade the Wingmare for the Hierarch here, but I'd rather stack taxation effects. So now a crop rotation would cast 3, so I just get to kill these? That seems sweet. And I'll get Revoker on the Hierarch the following turn? This is gross. Is my deck good? Because it feels really good. Yeah, I would say Infect is probably favored by like 20% in this matchup. Like, it's probably a 60-40 in favor of Infect. My opponent right there probably should tap their Hierarch to animate the Nexus to discourage me from attacking with Wingmare. Just another day at the office. We're just clocking in, wrecking our opponent. Yes, sir, you may attack me for 1 with your Inkmoth Nexus. I accept. Oh yeah, like, we have a lot of really good draws. That draw is insane, for example. We're going to get a basic Plains, in case our opponent Or excuse me, in case we draw a Magus, although the game will just end at that point anyway. Yeah, these hate bears are bullying. We are in maximum bully mode. Stack strong. Anyone who is questioning how good D&T is right now, like, this is what you do. You just tax people out, and there's very little they can do. Like, we wasted my opponent twice. We played 3 different taxation bears, as well as Revoker to stop a different mana source. Like, good luck. There's nothing you can do. Alright. Moving on to sideboarding. Scooping to Wingmare seems correct. Yeah, that was probably a fine decision. We essentially bring in things to help us survive a little bit longer. So Paths and Canonists help our opponent not just, like, nut us. We'll probably bring in Crusader, and Revoker and PNKs are maybe, depending on how much stuff we have to board out. So the good news is that as far as this deck goes, as far as the D&T versus Infect matchup goes, we're somewhat well suited. Excuse me. Even though Revoker did work against Noble Hierarch there, generally speaking, Revoker only shuts off Noble Hierarch, so most of the time it's not going to do a lot. I think PNK is probably going to be slow, and it seems like we have a good mix of cards here. So similarly, on the lines of like things being slow, we'll probably cut the Recruiters and just try to play a fair-ish game against them. Most of what we draw will be fine. And then we'll go ahead and trim the Batterskull. Again, if our opponent is trying to win with Infect damage, the life gain we get from Batterskull doesn't actually help us stay in the game longer. Go 4-0, be Crushing League, get paired against Elves, drink myself into a drunken stupor. Yeah, that sounds about right, yeah. There is some argument for keeping in Recruiter, because if you make it to the mid-game, then being able to get, like, Magus and Flicker Wisp is really insane. But that's a big if. Alright, this hand's great. And so, like, we get a curve of Swords into Canonist into Magus with what we have right now. And we get a target for this Swords. And there's none of this cute, hey, I'll wait till his turn, maybe he'll burn a spell. No. No, he will not. He knows about that sword. That's the bait, and I bet my opponent will probably just, like, play a Blighted Agent here. Or something of that ilk. Zerp85, thank you very much for subscribing. I really do appreciate the support. Hopefully, we will do more amusing things on this stream to keep you entertained and make it worth your time. No, something, we only have, I think, 1 Crusader in this build, and it's in the sideboard, so it's been Wingmare that's been doing the heavy lifting tonight. If you just got here, then, in the previous game, we had Thalia, Wingmare, and Revoker on Noble Hierarch. It was pretty gross. Alright, the question is, if I play Magus here, do I beat my opponent? Probably. So I'll get Magus this turn. My opponent will attack me again for 1, maybe a little bit more than that. And then on the following turn, I can Stoneforge. Alternatively, I can Stoneforge now, get Jitte now, and have Jitte counters on the following turn. If I get Stoneforge now, my opponent can attack in with 2 different creatures, and then 1 card like Become Immense might be lethal. No, they can't fuel a Become Immense yet. Do I think I can survive through 2 attacks if Magus is an additional layer of disruption? I think so. And this will stop my opponent from, like, brainstorming or fetching or doing any other cantrips to set it up. So I think I'm about that life. It's also uncounterable. Oh, this is beautiful. This is beautiful. This happens. Alright, I am not going to pay 1 for days. Does Magus of the Moon resolve? Oh, it does! Huh. That feels good. Yeah, Proto, this stream has been pretty great. Alright, so all we need to do is fade my opponent having 1 more pump spell, and we've got this. You know, that is a real question, though. And I'm fine with just playing this out now, because Viridian Corruptor is green-green, and my opponent can't daze. Alright, do you have another Invigorate? I guess it could be Become Immense as well. My opponent does not know how their cards work. So my opponent cast Vines of the Vastwood, and the first mode of that is that it gets hexproof. And it's when you kick it that it gets +4/+4, not the other way around. Not that my opponent could have kicked it anyway because of Magus of the Moon, but the steamroll, ladies and gentlemen. We are on a 4-0 warpath, taking down all of the bad players tonight. Wow. Alright. Chat, this has been a trip. OP definitely gets a punt counter. Yeah. That opponent was not experienced. The daze on the Cavern of Souls Magus was rough, and the kicked vines, or the not kicked vines just to give it hexproof for no reason was also really bad. Tetraverse, like, that might be true, but I legitimately think my opponent messed up. Like, there was the pause of, like, look at Infect counter, game is not over, oh shit, then concede. Basic Lanes, you're damn right. If a little girl is at a competitive REL event, there is no mercy. We'll tax her out, too. If that's an FNM or something, I will be, you know, the great, you know, awesome teacher that I am, but, you know, some 12-year-old girl sits down across from me at a GP, it's no mercy. It's dog-eat-dog world out there. Everyone gets taxed equally. Although every once in a while I do have my moment of weakness. Where do you have a Legacy FNM? I've played in a handful of Legacy FNMs, oftentimes when I travel. We don't have a Legacy FNM here in town at Star City Games. There are like 3 different FNM events, but Legacy is not one of them. They do, I think, Thursday night Legacy, although attendance hasn't been great, and I've just been playing on Moto instead most weeks. How do I feel about casting spells into a Chalice at FNM? The same way I feel about casting spells into Chalice all of the time. Fucking do it and see if they remember their trigger. All day, every day. Make them be good. Make them remember. I cannot tell you how many games I have won due to my opponents forgetting their chalice triggers. I mean, the Thalia tax plan is supplemented by the politicians who are all riding a Pegasus. Ren Wingmare. Tax them more, tax them more, tax them more, tax them more. It's a great plan. Alright. Going for the elusive 5-0. With my luck, we'll just get, like, paired against Julian right here. That would be the ultimate in just, like, make me know my place. Do I tax the wealthy at a higher rate? Yes, absolutely. If I see that my opponent is, like, playing black... Oh, that one didn't work. If I see my opponent is playing, like, black-bordered Underground Sea, I want to tax them even more. Uh-oh, chat. My opponent's name is Raphelos. It's spelled wrong, but it's still Raphelos. Please don't be an Elves player. Please just tell me that's, like, your commander. Is that card, like, banned as a commander? It seems like it would be insane. I'm going to keep this hand. I'm just going to pretend that my opponent isn't on Elves, and I'm going to try to play some good, honest-to-goodness Magic here. Against not Elves. Please don't be Elves. Because if it's not Elves, like, holy cow, this hand is good against just about everything. Thank God it's not Elves! Woo! Everything's fine. Yes, end step top. I am aware that the bot broke. I will fix it before the stream tomorrow night. We're going to jam Thalia here. It has the highest upside, and is probably most generically good against Ponder decks. Hey, if you have a weekly Legacy event at your shop, that's amazing. Like, that's what we all want, right? Especially those of us that, like, can't necessarily afford to go and play online. It's probably pretty close on whether or not I want to Stoneforge or Port here. If my opponent is something like Check Pile, I want to Stoneforge to threaten that pressure. Because then I have like 3 must-answer bodies in play. If my opponent's a combo deck, then I would have rather ported. Oh, thanks, End Step Top. Sorry, I forget who has said what. I'm bouncing a lot, around a lot in between screens and such. So if I repeat myself or randomly trail off sometimes and forget whether or not I finished talking, that's why. Alright, looks like Check Pile. Not quite, actually. So this is probably like the Punishing Dak deck. So my opponent is in a lot of trouble. I have Thalia in play as a taxing effect. If my opponent plays a Grove, then Grove doesn't actually help answer my board right now. Alright, there's the DAC. Alright, so my opponent gained control of this sword. So if I attack with this, they control the trigger, which is a little bit awkward. And I want to explain why that is awkward. If I attack in with Thalia at them, and attack Stoneforge at DAC, then Thalia's first strike damage happens, and Stoneforge eats it before my opponent before Stoneforge does its damage. So I need to think about how much I care about this DAC versus how much do I just want to straight up race my opponent. I have my opponent on a 3-turn clock with this Thalia. Considering that I can wasteland them and double port them out of the game, that all might be fine. No, I'm certainly not going to preemptive Revoker. I might not even Revoker now. The thing is that if I don't kill the DAC, my opponent could conceivably draw out of their situation. Three turns with a more or less invincible Thalia is probably fine, though. So I think I'm on the, currently on the not play any spells for the rest of the game plan and ignore DAC. You think I should definitely kill the DAC? So, if I waste them off Badlands, I then port them off of black, there's basically no cards that they can play to get them out of their current spot, right? They can loot, but what are they looking for? They would need, land Baleful Strix to, have literal anything that they could cast. I think it's correct to just attack them, but I'm going to kill the DAC. Oh, I should have... So, if Thalia attacks DAC, there's no trigger, so I missed a point of damage with the Stoneforge by not going at them. And again, since the Thalia has the potential to, kill my own stuff if I play it out, I'm not going to play any more cards here. We'll just port them. Alright, if my opponent floats mana, I'll port them next in their draw step rather than now. And just staggering that gives them the least amount of opportunity to use their mana productively. Alright, so my opponent doesn't have something like a Fatal Push, so that's great for me. I would love a Flicker Wisp to, like, Flicker Wisp my sword and gain control of it again. That would be grand. I will go ahead and attack in with both. I'm aware that my Stoneforge is going to die. And again, at this point, we'll just pass the turn. We'll port him out. So oddly enough, my opponent doing that is actually pretty good for me, because now I can deploy 2 different cards. So I have 6 mana, so I can go Thalia Uncounterable, followed by Revoker, Revoke Sword of Fire, nice. And then at this stage, it might be more valuable to hold up Caracas in case my opponent has a removal spell rather than port. So if my opponent has a removal spell, they get to, like, remove Revoker, attack in with Deathrite, and then I can block with Thalia and bounce with Caracas. Best draw in my deck would be a actual red-producing land for P and K. P and K plus Caracas will more or less just take over this game, no matter what my opponent does about it. Abrupt Decay on Thalia. I will bounce Thalia. Do you now have, like, Lightning Bolt plus Equip Sword? That would be annoying. Liliana of the Veil. Definitely annoying. Another Deathrite? Yep. Okay. Alright. So I get to cast Thalia, cast P and K uncounterable, and still hold up Caracas. Deal. You're gonna need to pay 1 more mana for whatever that is. Leovold. Okay. That is irrelevant right now. My opponent is dead on board to a red source. With a red source, I can fling Thopter right at their face after attacking for 2. Equip to Leovold. That seems worse than just equip to Deathrite. Alright. Wait, is there a creature in the graveyard? Okay, so maybe my opponent's not quite dead yet. They can last 1 more turn. So they get to go tap Deathrite for a green mana, use Deathrite to eat a creature. So that puts them up to 7. So not quite lethal. So we'll just kill the Lily right now. True name? Punishing Fire P and K. Alright, so I tapped the Caracas knowing that that was something that could happen. And that's fine. So I can shoot them for 2, bring them to 5, then have 3 damage with Thopters available. Or I can just keep all 4 Thopters and plan on using them over the course of the next couple of turns to aggro out the game. I probably want all of my Thopters. One has to chump block here, but on following turns I can just, like, Thalia and Caracas to deal with that. No porting here due to Leovold, in case anyone is curious. It's actually a really good draw for my opponent. And I don't just want to bounce the Leovold here. Ugh. So my plan is stay the course here and hope my opponent continues to misplay, because that has been the case thus far. Like, as soon as my opponent moves this Sword of Fire and Ice to a non-Leovold creature, I'm going to start taking more damage. But, again, hasn't happened yet, so... I can't overstate how amazing of a draw a Flicker Wisp would be. Alright, they figured it out. Yeah, I agree. My opponent might be watching now. Abrupt Decay the Thalia. Okay. Oh, I have very, very many great top decks. So we're going to treat a Caracas tap here as your opponent draws a card, you gain 3 life. That's fine. I'll then port down 2 of their lands here, probably those 2, and decrease the likelihood that they will cast Leovold again, potentially saving me more life in the long run. And we're porting the Trop here, even though my opponent will probably just eat something in response. It's the one land that can make them both gain life and do something with Leovold. And now my opponent can't profitably attack here, so they'll have, like, just get 2 in with this Deathrite by draining. More Deathrite Shaman. Great. There are at least 4 instants or sorceries in the graveyard. Alright, so my opponent opts to recast Leovold rather than drain me for 2. Yeah, game plan is stop drawing lands, I agree. That is the game plan. That's not what's actually happening here. So I attack in, I put my opponent to 4. They drain me 3 times, I go to 2. And then I need to present lethal on the following turn, or that's it. If they have a lightning bolt or equivalent, I just die. I don't think I want to bounce Leovold and then port my opponent yet. I think I want them to commit to attacks, and then I'll do the same sort of thing mid-combat. This looks like my opponent just has a bolt to finish me off. Alright, Snapcaster Punishing Fire. That'll do. Alright, so we just flooded out real hard there. Like, we were in amazing position, and then we drew lands for the rest of the game. And that happens sometimes. Alright, so we board in 2 to 3 Rest in Peace, probably just 2. P&K, Cataclysms, and some other sweet cards like this. We board out Swords to Plowshares. They don't really have things that I want to Swords. I usually board out Revoker, even though it can be good in certain spots. More often than not, it's just awkward and it ends up dying to removal instead of, like, actually doing what you want. And then I probably need to trim 1 Fairish card, so I'll trim 1 Flicker Wisp. And that gives me something that looks like this. Pretty happy with all of that. Oh, I did use up a lot of my clock there. I'll keep that in mind and play faster this game. I'm probably going to interact with you a little bit less, chat. It's nothing personal. This guy again. Let me tell you, getting real sick of Deathrite Shaman. Quick, Riot. Post your Elves fanfiction now. So this game is looking really good. But, you know, we're one stupid sideboard card like Sulfur Elemental or Dread of Night away from just dying. No! 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 God damn it. That's frustrating. That's cool, we just punted this game with a misclick. That's fine. It's perfectly fine. Ha! Joke's on you, the bot's broken, it's not a punt. Basic Plains doing the best bot impression he can. Whatever this is, I do not like it. Alright, my opponent has got to have something. So I'm not going to equip and give them the Time Walk, I'm just going to attack him. In before we die to Nicol Bolas. We have never died to Nicol Bolas on stream. We beat Bolas. What the hell is this? This is so much mana. K command, get the Jitte and the horse. Yep. So after first strike damage, we'll bounce the Thalia. They'll probably remove it in response, but then we get to play Mom and Vile out, and that's all fine. And I am just going to play both out. I want my F6 value with the clock being what it is. Plus, playing the Mom out means that if I rip a land, I can go Sword Equip and bash in. Or my opponent can get Punishing Firelock. So I like, conceptually, this is still check pile, right? Like, it's just check pile that has a few flex slots different. Where, instead of some of the other removal, they have Punishing Fires, and they have a couple of Dak Vadens. Like, it's still really check pile. It's splitting hairs if you want to, like, treat them as different decks. That would be me, yes. Artillery Frost, if you're familiar with Thraben University, that is me as well. Welcome to the channel. We're currently 4-0. We're about to be 4-1. Alright. In before opponent casts Dak, takes my Batter Skull, and I cry myself to sleep. I was not on Caleb D's chat last night. 2 power, a lot of things wreck us. We can play around nothing at this point. Like, we just have to, like, pray. Like, the Punishing Fire that we know about was in your graveyard, kills the Stoneforge Mystic, and then, like, anything that just, like, gets rid of the germ for a little while is problematic. Okay, that is good. The Punishing Fire is in the graveyard right now, so we actually get it. Yeah, double clicking on that mom instead of single clicking was super frustrating. I'm going to remove this stop on my opponent's upkeep. I don't think I'm going to be porting them ever again. I need to hold up 3 mana forever so this Batterskull lives no matter what. Yeah, our rest in peace is probably sticking around at this point. Lightning Bolt Thalia. Alright, I'll bite. I'll bounce there. If you have, you know, exactly like a K command on the top of your library, good for you. This is the germ that can go the distance. Deal. Yeah, I mean, we're pretty likely winning this game now. Despite my super, super frustrating misclick. Not porting them for clock reasons, I realize that it is optimal to port them, but not doing that here. So the thing is, like, I played that game super quickly. That's fine. I am not going to win this game in time with Cataclysm, so I'm going to board Cataclysms out and just board a couple more generic creatures in. Probably Revokers. That seems fine. Hand's not exciting, but fine. This is the sort of hand where I can very easily just, like, gimp my opponent on mana between the Wasteland and the Rest in Peace. Alright, great. Thoughtseize me. My hand's super redundant, I don't care. Yeah, I also think that my opponent is watching the stream. I will take your energy, I need it. Alright. Deed's annoying, but not that annoying. I maybe didn't want to do that in the face of the Leovold. Alright, so we get one draw to beat Leovold. It's gotta be one real good draw. That qualifies. Deluge still kills me. Alright, so we didn't lose that one to clock. Very, very happy with that. You know, we ended up 4-1 there. Can't ask too much more. And it was a very, very close set at that. So I'm going to just do a couple of things here, and then I'll say a few more words about that. Yeah, my opponent drew pretty well there. My hand was very insane, and they drew kind of what they needed at the right times to wiggle through that. I very much thought I was going to win that one, but that was not the case. I had only a couple of decision points. Like I could have tutored something else with the recruiter, but other than that, you know, I kind of like played to the best of my ability. Most of my lines were pretty obvious. Welshman, thank you very much for your subscription. I really do appreciate your support. Like, my opponent had double Deathrite, I had double Rest in Peace. I had double Wasteland for them as well. My opponent drew a Pernicious Deed, which sweeped pretty much all of my stuff off the board. Like, I could have gotten a Revoker for the Deed, but then that sets me up to, like, just lose hard later. So I got the P and K to, like, force him to pay 4 mana, getting rid of my Rips and his Deathrites, and just, like, getting all that stuff off the table. None of it's in the graveyard. That seemed like the correct thing to do at the time. Stupid, sexy Deathrite Shaman. So, Pernicious Deed is not something that I'm playing around, but, like, Abrupt Decay on 1, Snapcaster Mage, Abrupt Decay on 1 later absolutely is something that I would want to play around. The opponent having a random one of Pernicious Deed was rough. So I'd rather play around 2 Decays or Snap Decay than Deed. Like, most of those, like, check pile, punishing DAC type decks don't necessarily run a Deed. They can, but, like, it's really slow. Do I think Deathrite Shaman should get a ban? Yes. Not close. It is homogenizing all of the decks of Legacy to the point where it's kind of foolish to not play a Deathrite Shaman Brainstorm Ponder deck. And, like, Brainstorm's the best card in the format, you know. Ponder's not too far behind it. But, like, when both your control decks and your aggro decks are playing the same card as a finisher, that's really weird. You know, I don't want to, like, harp on Deathrite Shaman too much. You know, others have done that. It's all over Reddit this week. You can read all sorts of well-reasoned arguments about it, but Deathrite Shaman invalidates a lot of strategies. It's really silly how good Deathrite Shaman is. The fact that it's an early game mana accelerator, late game finisher, and mid game life gain option until you stabilize, while also randomly hating on graveyard based strategies. That's probably too good for 1 mana. There are a couple of very, very long posts on Reddit this week about that, if that's something you're interested in. Yeah, one mana Planeswalker is accurate. You just have to pay to activate its ability. Except when you want mana, then you don't have to pay. Like, there are a lot of other things that make it really frustrating to play against. Like, it invalidates the Wasteland aspect of Legacy, which is a huge portion of the format. It makes opposing removal basically meaningless, because if you blow removal on the Deathrite Shaman, then their good cards that they actually want to stick around take over the game. And Deathrite Shaman also accelerates into things that sometimes can't be answered with traditional removal, like True Name Nemesis. It's very frustrating. Deathrite Shaman leads to a lot of not particularly interesting games, because, like, the opponent's on the play, they go land Deathrite, you don't have a removal spell, and then they play turn 2, like, Liliana of the Veil or True Name Nemesis, and that card just rides them to victory. No, like, I'm fine with saying that much about Deathrite Shaman, but, like, I'm not going to go and, like, write out my entire argument or, sort of outline the rest of my argument on stream here. That's good enough. All right, folks. So thank you very much for joining me tonight. My name's Phil Gallagher. I'm with Thraben University, and this was Red, White, Death, and Taxes. We ended up going 4-1 with wins against Lands, Sneak and Show, Red Prison, Infect, and then a very, very narrow loss to the Punishing DAC list. So very, very happy with this deck. I will be doing another stream tomorrow night. That's fine, 2Power. Go ahead and type your question. I'll stay around to answer it. I will be doing another bonus stream tomorrow night for hitting my last follower goal. Tomorrow night I will be streaming with Wingmare D&T. And folks, if you want to stick around, I have what I think I'm going to play up, but I'm willing to take some critiques on it. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull up what I think is going to be the Wingmare deck list while I wait for 2Power's comment. Yeah, at Welshman, the plateaus are pretty easy to trade for, and you can find some beat-up ones pretty easily. I'm taking this exact deck to the GP this weekend. What changes would you make to the 75? Stunton, the bot's still down. I need to fix that. I would run this exact 75 right here with absolutely no changes. It has felt like it has had game against everything. I think I have all of the tools that I need in order to deal with most of the matchups. So, like, I'm definitely fine with what is right here. I have not felt like I have needed anything else that I do not have access to. All right, so folks, this is the deck list that I'm looking at for tomorrow night. I wanted to play a mono-white build with 4 Vryn Wingmare, and I've kind of got one awkward slot in the main that I haven't filled yet, and I have a Serra Avenger as a placeholder. So that Serra Avenger could pretty easily be something else. In the mono-white build here, like, this could be a Serra Avenger, this could be a Miracle Crusader. It maybe doesn't need to be a prelate if I have the, like, 4 Vryn Wingmares to, like, hate on those same sorts of decks. I think I'll probably just run extra planes over Cavern of Souls in this build, since, like, I don't want to have to put a Cavern on Pegasus or anything like that. 2Power. I don't have second Cataclysm and second P&K. Would Prelate and Jailer do? I 100% would run the second P&K. That is worth the $2 that the P&K is going to run you. Second Cataclysm could be a, like, Gideon ally of Zendikar, or Prelate or Jailer. in those slots pretty easily. But I like the Cataclysms. They're very good against Check Pile and Miracles, as well as some random decks like Big Eldrazi. What are the Cataclysms for? I don't really understand that card. Cataclysm's like cheating against Planeswalkers. So the way Cataclysm is worded, each player chooses from among the permanents he or she controls an artifact, creature, enchantment, and land, and sacrifices the rest. So it will wipe Planeswalkers off the board. So if your opponent is playing something like Check Piles or Miracles, and they have like 6 lands and a Jace, and that's it, Cataclysm just leaves them with 1 land, and it kind of wrecks them. Basic Plane says, I wouldn't touch Jailer anytime soon. I agree. I've been off Jailer recently. I don't think it's very good in the current metagame. Otherwise, most of the sideboard is going to be stock for tomorrow night. If you have any thoughts about what this Avenger should be, let me know. Like, I'm considering a Sanctum Prelate or a Mirran Crusader in the main deck with the other in the sideboard, but a random Avenger or other flex slot is fine as well. Food for thought. I'll ask again at the beginning of the stream tomorrow. That one will start promptly at 7 o'clock. I will not start that one early since it's one of the bonus streams and people might want to watch the Wingmare shenanigans. Mainboard Rip instead of Avenger? That's not great when I'm playing all these Thalias and Wingmares and Rip is going to cost more. Hikori, it should be Hikori. As in Hikori Dust Drinker, which only lets the opponent untap 1 land. Barenton Forge Tender beats Pyrokinesis. Sure does, Basic Planes. Sure does. Alright, chat. I think I'm going to go ahead and call it a night here. Thank you all for joining me. I hope you had fun on this roller coaster of a stream. I think I set up my auto-hosting correctly, so I'm just going to stop streaming and see where you end up.